Hey, everybody, welcome back to another edition of the Cool Sports Network. I am your host, Chase Coburn. Today is the day, ladies and gentlemen, the NBA postseason begins today. And we have a lot of great things to break down here on the Cool Sports Network. When I say break down, I mean we got to talk about my NBA playoff bracket, my predictions as we head into the postseason. This is being recorded on Saturday morning. We have concluded the play-in, and the games start later today. So it's time for me to roll up the sleeves and make my predictions. I've actually been pretty good for the past few years predicting teams ahead of the playoffs. Before the season, not so much. I'm going to break that down in just a minute. Real quick, before we get into it, I want to say later today, we have a huge episode coming out. Interview with ESPN NFL draft analyst Matt Miller. You are not going to want to miss that. A big interview, one of the biggest experts in the NFL draft, doing some great things at ESPN. You again you're not going to want to miss that. So please stay tuned for that. It's going to be posted later today on the Cool Sports Network and the Chase's Sports News YouTube channel. Meanwhile, here we are in the NBA postseason, and I've done a pretty good job in my tenure talking basketball. I started making my predictions before the postseason in 2020, where I predicted the Lakers to win the NBA championship, which was correct. In 2021, I predicted the Bucks, which was correct. In 2022, I predicted the Celtics, and they made the finals when no one thought they would. People thought they were going to be bounced in the first round by Brooklyn in that 2022 season. So I give myself credit for that pick. Then in 2023, I said Denver was going to win when everyone was high on the fourth seed of Phoenix out of the Western Conference. I picked Denver last year. Minnesota was kind of my worst one. They got eliminated in 5 of the conference finals to the Luka Doncic-led Mavericks. But I believe I do a pretty good job at understanding where teams are at heading into the postseason. Can I get a champion right again? I have not gone 2 straight years of my predicting NBA postseason champion tenure without getting my champion right. So let's see if I can. Let's pull up my ESPN bracket. I already filled out my bracket last night, just doing different layouts and stuff like that. But here is my bracket, which I'm really excited to show you guys. A lot of great things. There are a lot of things to me that stand out with this bracket. Here we go. Just wanted to get it to the right format. Here we go. So let's go here. We're going to start the Western Conference. I don't know why I always start in the Western Conference, but I do. Western Conference, Thunder, Grizzlies. Grizzlies able to pull out a win, which is huge for my Washington Wizards, by the way, because now they get that additional first-round pick. Stay tuned for a season recap episode talking about that, talking about Bub Carrington and more on Wiz Talk with Chase on the Chase of Sports' YouTube channel. Nonetheless, Wizards get that first round pick because the Grizzlies win. The Mavericks don't make the postseason. Defense wins championships. That doesn't really work there. So we got Thunder Grizzlies in the first round. I have been a team high on Memphis for years. I've kind of thought they could be an NBA contending type team, but even when they were the 2 seed, they have not gotten to the conference finals. And I just think such an open window for Memphis is frankly closing because I don't think this core currently intact is good enough to compete with Oklahoma City. Now, since the firing of head coach Taylor Jenkins, which I did not agree with, nor did I agree with the firing of Mike Malone, and we'll get to that in just a minute, John Morant has played exceptional basketball. So I think the Grizzlies could take a game or two in this series solely for the fact that John Morant could put the biscuit in the basket. He could score at will. He could be the best player on the floor. But they're not going to compete with a Thunder team that could beat you in so many different ways. 68 wins this season. Only 2 teams with 68 wins or more have not won the NBA championship in history. This is not a championship or bust season, but I believe that this is the type of year for Oklahoma City where a championship should be expected because that's the level that they played at throughout the course of this season. They're one of the greatest regular season teams in NBA history this year. So I got Oklahoma City to move on again. Memphis can take a game or two for the sole fact that John Morant could just go off and score the ball at will, but it's not going to be good enough as a team effort collectively to beat a team like Oklahoma City. Then we move on here to Denver and Los Angeles. I think this is a very interesting series. Had Mike Malone not gotten fired, I would have maybe had a different perception of the way that I think of the series. I just don't know if David Adelman, whose last head coaching job came at a high school who at the time had 370 students per Andrew Fenichel of YouTube, I'm not sure that David Adelman's going to be able to lead this team to playoff series win, especially when you have Tyronn Lue on the other side and a great just overall system and integrity of that Los Angeles Clippers team. I think the series will go 6. Jokic is too good for it not to go 6, but you're also looking at a Clippers team that and I don't know if you've heard me say it, but you'll hear me say it now. You'll hear me say it throughout the entire episode. This Clippers team has very little weaknesses. They can beat you in so many different areas. And even without Paul George, I actually think the team is more well rounded without PG 13. So I'm going to have Los Angeles here. Moving on, let's say in 6 games as well, 5 or 6 in here, 6 or 7 in this series, but the Clippers move on to the second round to face Oklahoma City. Then we have Los Angeles, Minnesota. This is going to be fun. I cannot wait to see the banter between Anthony Davis and LeBron James. Because you have a guy like LeBron James who, he loves competing in the banter, whether it's Stephen A. Smith or Dylan Brooks or Anthony Edwards. He loves to be a part of that because he usually wins those arguments just with this short talent on the court. But Anthony Edwards, one of those guys though, where he's one of the best scorers in the NBA. He plays with such swagger and confidence, and he's the reason why Minnesota's here. I mean, Minnesota completely lost that Karl Anthony Towns, Julius Randle trade. I know Cat was kind of out the door, but I don't think that move was the right deal for the team at all. Now, Minnesota, I do have to say, though, has been really hot as of late. I believe since the All-Star break, since March 1st, there have been very little teams with more wins than Minnesota. So being hot going into the postseason is huge, but the Lakers are also hot as well. And the Lakers are right in that company, adding Luka Doncic on that, crazy February 1st deadline deal. Look, LeBron James and Luka Doncic aren't going to go out in round 1, so I am going to pick the Lakers. I'm going to pick it in 7, though. This may be the best series of the first round. I just think you're going to see offense. And I just think teams will exploit different weaknesses differently. Like I think LeBron James will make Anthony Edwards work the entire series to muster production on the perimeter. Yet I'd also argue that Jackson Hayes at center is going to get bullied by 4-time Defensive Player of the Year Rudy Gobert. So I just think you're going to see those mismatches here and there, and that's what's going to make the series entertaining. And it's going to come down to who has the better coaching series. And if JJ Redick is the coach we've thought he could be throughout the regular season, if he does that again in the playoffs, the Lakers are going to move on and have a deep playoff run. Let's go here, Rockets Warriors. I take back my comment about the Lakers and Warriors being the best series of the first round. This is going to be the best series of the first round. This is a series where I feel like everyone has just penciled in Golden State because Rockets don't have experience. Golden State's been on fire since adding Jimmy Butler, all this other stuff. Draymond Green's been a Defensive Player of the Year candidate to trade as well. I am not denying the fact that Golden State has played elite basketball since the Jimmy Butler trade. Like elite basketball since the Jimmy Butler trade. I am not trying to deny that claim at all. This is a very, very good Warriors team. This is a team who has a great 3-and-D guy in Jimmy Butler, a guy who would just step up on all levels, one of the best playoff performers of this generation. You have a guy in Steph Curry, one of the best performers, period, of this entire generation, the best shooter in the history of the NBA, a guy who could just completely take over a game, and we've seen him do it various times in the NBA playoffs. And then again, you have a guy like Draymond Green, who is just a beast in the interior and could just take over games himself as well. So you have 3 guys on that Golden State team that have just like the championship, grittiness and toughness to win in the postseason. However, this is where Houston comes in because while Houston is young and doesn't have much playoff experience, just kind of making this leap to a 50-plus win season in the 2 seed this year, I would actually like to mention to you that this is one of the most aggressive teams in the NBA. This is not a team that is a young, quick, but yet weak team that can't deal with physical opponents. This is one of the more physical teams in the NBA. Alperen Sengun makes defenders in the perimeter, in the post, work. He averaged 19 points, 10 rebounds per game this season, as well as a steal and a block. Like, that's the guy you want. You have a guy in Fred VanVleet who does have championship experience. You have a guy in Dylan Brooks, and I think Dylan Brooks versus Jimmy Butler is going to be a fun matchup throughout the entire series. 2 guys who play with a similar mentality. Dylan Brooks has been amazing in Houston. So was Amen Thompson. Remember that name. And then obviously we know what Jalen Green can do. Usually on any given night, the best player on the court. I think this Rockets team, they have 7 double-digit scorers. You just don't know who's going to step up on any night. And that is the only thing that actually is holding me back, though, from picking Houston, is that, yes, they could beat you from more areas than Golden State can. But Golden State's top-tier scorers, you know where the ball is going to go in the final minutes, and you know exactly the result that's going to occur. So, if we get into these close scenarios, are you going to trust Houston to close out these games? That's kind of going to be the bingo card of this series because Houston, as I know Colin Cowherd said it too, I'll repeat it, Houston will blow out Golden State in a few of these series. They will, just because they have that short talent. But in the close games, are they going to be able to close it out? Time will tell there. However, Houston's also, I believe, 8-5 this season in 3-point in games settled by 3 or more points. Or 3 or less points, This is just kind of rambling here at this point. This is going to be a terrific series. It's going to be back and forth. It's going to be physical. It's going to be aggressive. I'm not picking Golden State. I'm picking the Rockets. I know technically it would be boring to pick the 2 seed, but the Rockets are an underdog as a 2 seed. I don't think they're going out early. I think oftentimes just people pencil in experience over youth, but you have to look more at these actual teams and the way that they play. And I believe the Rockets are going to take down Golden State in 7. But again, for all the reasons I mentioned, this is going to be a marvelous series. Cavaliers Heat. It was Cavaliers Hawks. I think the same way with Cavs Heat. They don't have Jimmy Butler anymore. Miami. They don't have the firepower to take down a team like Cleveland. I got the Cavaliers. They've been so great, and who's stopping Evan Mobley down low? Bam Adebayo, Evan Mobley is going to be a fantastic matchup, and I just believe Donovan Mitchell is going to be able to score at will more than Tyler Hero. Pacers Bucks is an interesting series. Indiana is one of the best offensive teams in the NBA. Well, Milwaukee has Giannis. It doesn't look like they'll have Dame Lillard for the series, which is unfortunate because that duo has been fantastic in Milwaukee. But it does feel like Milwaukee hasn't capitalized on a championship window since they won their first title under Giannis in 2021. They were second round exit in 2022, out in the first round the past 2 years, last year to Indiana. Who am I going to pick here? I am going to pick the Pacers. I just think that Giannis can't continue to carry the team on his own. Indiana has that playoff experience. You don't need to worry about them, yet they can run fast, and they have an incredible offense in the half court and in transition. I like Indiana to move on in that series. Knicks Pistons is very interesting. Knicks Pistons is one of the most interesting series of the first round. I'm not saying it's going to be one of the most entertaining. It's one of the most interesting series of the first round because you've all heard it. I believe the Knicks are 0-11 this season against Boston, Cleveland, and Oklahoma City. It gets worse. You even just look right deep into these stats, which I just found unbelievable. You look at the Knicks against opponents 500 or better this season, 15-23. Are they ready for playoff basketball? I'd ask you the same question, though, about Detroit, because while Detroit beat New York 3 times this season, Detroit is 12-27 against 500 and better teams this season. That's even a more lackluster record. So eventually it's going to come down to which team is going to perform better in the postseason. They both took care of business against lackluster competition, as you should when you're a great team. But who's going to step up and who's going to play at the level great enough to win in the postseason? That is going to be the question in this series. I think a lot of people are picking Detroit. They're the fun, youthful team. The Knicks haven't stepped up. They've had more issues. They don't have the depth in the defense that kind of shaped their team over these past few seasons. It was kind of the foundation that allowed them to win 50 plus games consistently in the regular season. They won 51 this year. I just think that Detroit doesn't have the experience to do it. I think throughout this entire season, you have seen Cade Cunningham carry that team, and I don't know if that's sustainable in the postseason. And I just think New York will wear them down. I can see Detroit taking like a 2-1 lead in the series and then the Knicks winning the final 3 games. I just think it's one of those matchups where the Pistons can come out firing, but when it's a Tom Thibodeau coach team, they can just wear you down at some point, and the Knicks can beat you with so many different scoring options. I like the Knicks to win this series in 6 games. I wouldn't be shocked if the Pistons win, though I do feel confident picking the team playing 4 of the 7 games possibly at Madison Square Garden. And then Celtics Magic in the first round. A very interesting series because this Orlando team struggles to score the ball, but they have the best defense in the NBA. The Celtics don't struggle to score the ball, and they have the second best defense in the NBA. I think the pace of this game is going to be very slow. I actually think some of these games are going to be really boring. Even they're going to be close, but I actually could see a game where both teams barely crack 100 if they do, because both of these defenses are just so potent. But at the end of the day, when you have 2 teams who play a similar style like that, the separator is the 3-point shot. Today's NBA, and the Celtics shoot the 3-point shot as good as anybody in history. They've been so prolific at it this season. I think they'll do it again here in the postseason. The reigning champs are going out in round 1. I got 1, 2, 3, 4 in the East and 1, 2, 3, 5 in the West. Let's go back to the Western Conference here. Oklahoma City, Los Angeles. Now, I said that it's not a championship or bust season for Oklahoma City because I believe with their draft picks, they're still going to have so many years on this window. Obviously, you never know. You want to capitalize on a championship opportunity, but I believe that they'll have more time to capture that championship. I don't believe it's championship or bust for Oklahoma City in this postseason. However, I do believe questions are going to be asked if what I believe is going to happen happens, because I have the Los Angeles Clippers moving on to the conference finals. I just think this Thunder team has more weaknesses than people know. There was one stat, and I go through all these stats just to try to analyze these teams. And there was one stat that just hit me. This year, Oklahoma City was 1-4 in games decided by 3 or less points. They also were 0-1 in their only overtime contest. Right? We keep seeing this team just dominate and come up with wins that we didn't know were like unfathomable margins in some of these games. They were 54-5 in games separated by 10 or more points, 31-10 against teams 500 or better. I'm not arguing their credentials, if you will. I'm just saying down the stretch, you have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, you have Jalen Williams, you have Lou Dort, you have Chet Holmgren, you have a great core there. But are they able to close out games? And are they going to be able to do it like we've seen James Harden do it for many years? And James Harden has been an unbelievable closer this year. And I get his postseason performance leaves a lot to be desired in previous seasons, but now he's got Kawhi Leonard next to him, who's also one of the best closers in NBA postseason history. A guy like Kawhi can just take over any series. We saw that in 2019. The only reason why Toronto was able to end the dynasty temporarily of the Golden State Warriors, why they were able to get to the finals and why they were able to win. So when you have two guys like that who could just dominate and win a game down the stretch, and the Thunder are 1-4 in games separated by 3 or less points, how do you think this series is going to go? This Clippers team is so complete. They're so dominant. I like the Clippers to second straight year now. The Thunder would be out to a very great, 4-5 in the second round. And then I think questions would start to be asked about if they're not able to close out these games. Are the Thunder going to be able to do it and have one of the most failed, have a great regular season that fails in the postseason and flames out in the second round? I like the Clippers to go to the conference finals. And then Lakers, Rockets. I just said that whole spiel about how I think Houston is an aggressive team, how you should not just pencil in experience against their youthful selves, because they do have experience, they have grittiness. But I'm also picking LeBron James, Luka Doncic, and the Lakers to move on, because while Alperen Sengun is dominant, he's not the type of player who could just completely take over the interior. You're going to see LeBron James try to bully him a little bit. I think Luka Doncic is going to have a fantastic series. And again, if you're looking at closing situations in the second round of the playoffs, we're looking at a guy in Jalen Green who's taking the final shot in Houston. No one's really shown they could do that. On the other hand, you have two of the best closers in modern NBA history in LeBron James and Luka Doncic. I think that just says enough. We have a battle of LA in the conference finals. No longer just at Staples Center or Crypto.com Arena or whatever it's called now, but a battle of LA in the conference finals of the Western Conference side. And then on the East, great season for Indiana. They've just been too inconsistent all year. Cleveland's one of the best defensive teams. Who can Indiana put to stop Evan Mobley in the paint? Pascal Siakam, I don't think that's going to work. I think the Cavaliers are relying on Evan Mobley to do great in the postseason, but I think he will, and I think that the Cavs move on to the conference finals because of it. And then again, Knicks did beat the Cavs, Celtics, or Thunder all season. I don't think they're really going to beat the Celtics this series. Maybe Celtics win in 5. I think the Knicks could steal 1, but Boston's just going to completely outshoot them and just wear them down as a team. The Jaylen Brown injury is concerning me. Right? If Jaylen Brown's not healthy, there's the avenue for a team like Orlando. I don't think Orlando, but a team like the Knicks or the Pistons to maybe take the Celtics to 7 games, and then who knows? But if Jaylen Brown's able to stay healthy and if he's on the court, now you have Kristaps Porzingis healthy. He's been the X factor for this team over the past 2 seasons. And the Celtics, the reigning champs, to back-to-back conference finals. So you have the Battle of LA, and then the 2 teams in the Eastern Conference we've known we're going to be there all season. It's Clippers, Lakers in the West, and Cavs, Celtics in the East. Clippers, Lakers. I've always been a fan of the Luka Doncic trade. How can you not? Because it helps the future of the team. But I actually do think the foundation of this Lakers squad leaves a lot to be desired, because you're probably they've been so great since the Luka Doncic trade. And I get that. I'm not denying that they've been a fantastic team since the trade. But you just look at the way that this team is just surrounded. Go to their depth chart, right? And you can see it's apparent on any given night. Jackson Hayes is starting on that team. I don't think a team starting Jackson Hayes can go to the NBA Finals. I know it's just a terrible reason I know it's a terrible argument, but it's just when you have such a glaring weakness on one side, the Clippers don't have that. That's where the Clippers beat you. The Clippers just don't have that. Obviously, you have James Harden at point guard. Chris Dunn's been one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA this year. Norman Powell has been a prolific scorer. Off the bench, you have guys like Bogdan Bogdanovic, Derrick Jones, Nicholas Batum, who have been fantastic. Obviously, you got Kawhi at the 4, and then Ivica Zubac could possibly win Defensive Player of the Year and Most Improved Player after such a great improvement year here in this 2024-25 season. I just think if you're looking at Kawhi and Ivica Zubac versus Jackson Hayes in the paint, the Lakers aren't going to be able to keep up. I think the Clippers win this in 6 games. I think the Clippers go to the NBA Finals. And then last but not least, in the East, Cavs, Boston. I think what the Cavs have done is great, but I'll say it now and I'll say it again. I'll make 2 series picks in one sentence. Nobody is beating Boston. I think the Celtics are 2024-25 NBA champions. Let me take this down so I can say it to the camera if I want to make a YouTube short after this, if I get this correct again. I believe Boston is your 2024-25 NBA champions. I said it before the season, and I'll say it again. This team can just suffocate you in so many different areas. You have Jason Tatum, who's marvelous. You have Jaylen Brown, who's fantastic. Drew Holiday is one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA. Derek White is one of the best floor generals in the NBA. Kristaps Porzingis is an X factor, and they have one of the greatest benches in NBA history. I believe actually they're second in bench offensive rating in all-time NBA history behind last year's team. So it's just, this team stayed so consistent. They have had a few hiccups throughout the season, but every team has their hiccups. They won the Atlantic Division to no surprise. They're second seed in the Eastern Conference. I think the region that they have, I say a region, the bottom half region, if you will, of the Eastern Conference is an easier path to get by. I believe it's just going to be, can they beat Cleveland? And if they do, I think Celtics Clippers can be a great series. It'll definitely go 6 or 7. But I think Boston wins. Boston is suffocating defensively. They have the star power. They know how to close out games, and they can shoot the three-point ball. They have everything you want out of an NBA championship contender. And that's why they're going to do it. And that's why they're going to go all the way and win the 2024-25 NBA championship. Hope you guys did enjoy this episode. If you did, please subscribe, follow, share, and view. We appreciate you guys tuning in. And then stay tuned. We're going to have some NHL playoff coverage. If you haven't seen my YouTube post talking about my predictions, some of the things that stand out for my predictions, please be sure to check that out whenever you have time. And again, interview with Matt Miller coming out later today. You're not going to want to miss that. Thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for tuning into this episode, and have fun during the NBA playoffs. Again, Celtics over Clippers in 6 games is what we're going to rule it as, and we'll see. We'll look back on it and see if I am correct. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Signing off, I am Chase Coburn saying so long from the Cool Sports Network and the Chase of Sports YouTube channel. Enjoy the NBA playoffs.